History is war. From legendary last stands to the muddy trenches of the First World War, our world has been forged in the crucible of conflict. Welcome to 15-minute battles. Here, we cut through the noise. We dissect the most decisive conflicts that shaped civilizations. Who were the brilliant and sometimes brutal leaders calling the shots? Every single episode is a deep dive into the strategy, the critical turning points, and the very real human cost of war, all distilled for you in just 15 minutes. Time is short. The history is epic. Don't just read history, experience it. Subscribe to 15-minute battles today and hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode.
For centuries, the Greek world was defined by its fiercely independent city-states. Athens, Sparta, Thebes, these names conjure images of philosophers, legendary warriors, and the birth of democracy. But by the mid-4th century BCE, this golden age was dimming. Decades of brutal, relentless infighting, most notably the Peloponnesian War, had left the Greek world exhausted, fractured, and vulnerable. Into this power vacuum, a new force was rising in the north, a kingdom once considered a backwater by the sophisticated southern Greeks. This was Macedon, and its king was a man of vision, ruthlessness, and military genius, Philip II. Philip wasn't just another warlord, he was a revolutionary. He took the semi-barbaric tribes of Macedon and forged them into the most formidable professional army the world had yet seen. He reformed the traditional Greek phalanx, equipping his soldiers with the sarissa, an obscenely long pike, some 18 feet in length. This bristling wall of spear points was nearly impenetrable from the front. He combined this super phalanx with a powerful, highly mobile cavalry force, creating a combined arms machine that was both a hammer and an anvil. As Philip systematically expanded his power southward, the once proud city-states of Greece finally began to awaken to the existential threat they faced. The alarm bells rang loudest in Athens. The great orator Demosthenes had for years been warning his fellow citizens about the Macedonian menace, urging them to unite before it was too late. Finally, his words hit home. In a last-ditch effort to preserve their freedom, Athens forged an alliance with its old rival Thebes. Together, they represented the final, desperate hope of an independent Greece. They marched their armies north to block Philip's advance into central Greece. The stage was set for a decisive confrontation, a battle that would determine the fate of a civilization. In 338 BCE, near the small town of Chaeronea, the old world and the new were about to collide. On the plains of Chaeronea, two massive armies faced each other. The allied Greek force, which historians often call the Hellenic League, numbered around 35,000 men. Their strength was anchored by the battle-hardened Athenians and the legendary Theban sacred band. This elite unit of 300 soldiers, formed from pairs of male lovers, was considered the most formidable fighting force in all of Greece, famous for never having broken in battle. They were fighting for their homes, their freedom, and the legacy of their ancestors. Their morale was high, and they were confident in the time-tested superiority of the Greek hoplite. Facing them was the Macedonian war machine, also numbering about 35,000. While equal in number, Philip's army was a different breed entirely. These were not citizen soldiers called up for a single campaign. They were professionals, hardened by years of constant warfare under Philip's command. Their discipline was absolute, their cohesion unmatched. The core of the army was the infantry phalanx, with their terrifying sarissas, but their ace in the hole was the cavalry. On the Macedonian left flank, commanding the elite companion cavalry, was Philip's own son, an 18-year-old prodigy whose name would soon echo through eternity, Alexander. The battlefield itself was a wide plain, flanked by hills and a river. It was a space Philip had likely chosen deliberately, as it offered the perfect terrain for him to leverage his greatest advantage, his superior cavalry. The command structure was clear. Philip took overall command of the Macedonian army, positioning himself on the right wing, directly opposite the Athenians. The Greeks placed the Thebans, including the sacred band, on the right flank, facing the young Alexander. The Athenians held the left. As the horns sounded and the two armies began to advance, the fate of the classical world hung in the balance. The air grew thick with dust and tension. The battle began with a clash of shields and a grinding of metal as the two massive infantry lines met. The fighting was intense, a brutal push and shove of men and spears. On the Greek left, the Athenians, full of patriotic fervor, pushed hard against the Macedonian line commanded by Philip himself. And then something strange happened. The Macedonians, the supposedly invincible soldiers of Philip, began to give way. Slowly, deliberately, Philip's wings started to fall back. To the inexperienced Athenian generals and their eager soldiers, it looked like a breakthrough. They believed they were winning, that the Macedonian right was crumbling under their assault. With triumphant cries, they surged forward, breaking their own formation in their haste to pursue and crush the fleeing enemy. This was not a rout, however. It was a trap, one of the most brilliant and subtle tactical deceptions in military history. Philip wasn't retreating. He was luring the Athenians on, stretching their line and drawing them away from the rest of the Greek army. Every step forward the Athenians took, they were creating a fatal gap in the center of the Allied line, a yawning chasm between themselves and their Theban allies. Philip, a master of battlefield psychology, had turned his enemies' enthusiasm into their greatest weakness. He had presented the bait, and the Athenians had taken it hook, line, and sinker. As the overzealous Athenians surged ahead, the gap in the Greek line widened into a fatal vulnerability. On the opposite flank, Alexander had been waiting, watching. He saw the moment Philip's plan came to fruition. This was his chance. Leading the charge himself, Alexander wheeled the elite companion cavalry, a force of 2,000 heavy horsemen, and launched them like a thunderbolt straight into that gap. The charge was devastating. The cavalry didn't just hit the gap. They pivoted and slammed into the exposed, unprotected flank of the Theban phalanx. The Thebans were legends, but they were infantry, designed to fight from the front. They had no answer for a massive cavalry charge crashing into their side and rear. The formation that had been their greatest strength suddenly became a death trap. Panic and chaos erupted as the elite horsemen tore through their ranks. Simultaneously, Philip ordered his wing to halt its feigned retreat. The Macedonian infantry, who had been falling back in perfect order, now turned, lowered their pikes, and charged forward into the disorganized and exhausted Athenians who had pursued them. The Greek army was now caught in a perfect pincer. The Athenians were being hammered from the front, while the Thebans were being annihilated from the flank and rear. The battle had turned into a slaughter. Amid the chaos, the Theban sacred band made their last stand. Surrounded and hopelessly outnumbered, they refused to surrender or retreat. They fought with a courage born of desperation and honor, holding their ground to the last man. They were annihilated where they stood, a testament to their legendary discipline, but their sacrifice could not change the outcome. The Greek line had completely collapsed. The Battle of Chaeronea was over. The aftermath was a scene of total devastation for the Greeks. The field was littered with the bodies of thousands of Athenian and Theban soldiers. The pride of Greece had been shattered in a single afternoon. The victory for Macedon was absolute and crushing. Philip's tactical brilliance, combined with Alexander's decisive charge, had not just won a battle, it had ended an era. This single engagement permanently extinguished the flame of the independent Greek city-state. The age of Athens, Sparta, and Thebes was over. Following his victory, Philip established the League of Corinth, a federation that brought all of Greece, with the nominal exception of Sparta, under his military control. He was now the undisputed hegemon, the master of Greece. His authority was absolute. Chaeronea was more than just a political shift. It was a cultural turning point. It marked the death of the classical Greek world and the birth of the Hellenistic age. This battle was the critical foundation upon which Philip's ultimate dream was to be built, a unified Greco-Macedonian invasion of the mighty Persian Empire. Though Philip would be assassinated before he could see this vision through, he had laid all the groundwork. He had united Greece, perfected its army, and bred a successor capable of finishing the job. The Battle of Chaeronea was the crucible that forged Alexander, giving him his first taste of high command and proving his military genius. It was the essential stepping stone that made his future conquests and the creation of one of the largest empires in history possible. The world we know today was irrevocably shaped on that dusty plain in 338 BCE. Thanks for watching.
Thank you for journeying with us through the echoes of history's most pivotal battlefields. We hope this exploration into the past has been as insightful for you as it was for us to create. If you enjoyed this deep dive, please show your support by hitting that like button. It truly helps us out. Share this video with any fellow history buffs you know. And if you haven't already, subscribe to our channel, Battles Through History, for more epic tales. Don't forget to ring the notification bell so you'll be the first to know when we march into our next chapter. We love hearing from you, so drop your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, keep the spirit of exploration alive.